Thanks for tuning into another episode of Hawk Talk today. I have here sitting with me today, Daniel Burkhalter. Thank you so much, Daniel, for coming in today and talking with us.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Awesome. So one of the things, people are thinking, well, wait, who is this guy? Why is he here? Why is he talking with us? Let's start with your personal connection with Hettinger or the Hettinger area even, and also even why you're here at Hettinger Public School. So for those who don't know, that last name might possibly sound familiar to you. Not our elementary, but our high school math teacher, Miss Burkhalter, Ruth Burkhalter. This is actually her brother, and he came down to talk with students. Also, too, he's from the area, right? You're kind of near Hettinger, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Prairie City, South Dakota.
So really close here.
Yeah, just 35, 40 miles south of here.
Absolutely. So, so you're near to the area, and then also too, you're here in the school today to do some presentations with students. We just got done doing 2 presentations back to back. So I'm pretty sure you might be a little raspy with the voice after talking for that long, right?
Yeah, I've been talking quite a bit, but it's been a blast. I had a lot of fun showing the kids some AI stuff.
Absolutely. And that's something we're going to dive into deep in this podcast. That's going to be really, really fun. So, Daniel did a presentation with what he does as his profession, as well as his field of interest and what he went to school for. And then there was a little bit of talk about cross country and track, which are your athletic side of things. So we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit. But to get there, let's start with your educational journey. So academic achievements and key points and decisions on, why you went into this field. Because for those who don't know, obviously Miss Burkhalter is very interested in math. And that sounds like also an understatement for Daniel. The math is kind of the thing. Like from what I heard from other conversations, you were doing math in your relaxation time. Like you were just hanging out and working on math problems, correct?
Yeah. Early on in my education, I was doing that. Now I don't do as much math. I like to code a lot more now. So that's what I do in my free time is coding using AI and building websites and stuff. But early on in my journey of like undergraduate college, especially, I'd do a lot of math. Just
math problems for fun.
Yeah, most of them were homework, but I enjoyed doing it.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy for a guy like me. So you're switching over more to the coding, and that's kind of becoming more the passion and more the follow for things. But so you went to college for what degrees, and then what did you end up with? What was the plan, and then how did it end up?
So it's funny you asked that. My plan was to go to college and become a math major, graduate as quickly as possible, and go out and get a job.
Gotcha. So very, very strict, solid plan.
I was
gotcha.
Like, my parents, my advisors from school, it's like, here's what you can do. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go be a math major. And then I was also running. So I was going to do 4 years and done. That was the plan. Turns out I ended up going to school for 6 years, which is a little bit different. But the reason is that I got injured in cross country and track. And when my 4 years were up with I did a master's in 4 years.
Wow.
I was like, well, I kind of want to run. I like running. So I was like, well, in order to run at college, you have to be a student. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to do another master's. So I went on and did data science. So like my bachelor's was in mathematics. And then I did my master's in statistics, and that was in 4 years. And then I spread the master's in data science was a 1-year program.
So for those who don't know, like what is data science?
Yeah.
If you had to explain to somebody who's maybe not familiar with some of this terminology.
Yeah, data science is really just drawing insights from information. That's what I would say. I mean, companies and people, hospitals, credit card companies, manufacturers, like there's information everywhere. Like the internet is information, data, right?
Gotcha.
And science is drawing insights or conclusions from that data.
Gotcha. So it's taking your data and doing something with it, coming to some type of solution or conclusion or idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Gotcha. For example, early on in my career, I worked at some finance companies like credit card, small business loan, and like they had this data or information, and my job was to predict how much money we were going to lose.
Oh, okay. Which would be very important to the company.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So, I mean, with that, that those are some really heavy responsibilities, but when you're excited about math and numbers and data science, that just becomes fun and a good time. So that's really, really cool. So that got you there. And that's, I'm assuming, post graduation, you were at those jobs, correct?
No, I worked internship and jobs throughout college.
Oh,
so
wow.
Freshman year of college, I was told you need to get an internship, and I was like, oh, okay. So I applied,
Yeah.
and somehow by miracle I got one.
Oh, wow.
And I did an internship with that company in Sioux Falls for 3 years.
Okay.
Throughout college, and then when I was in my master's program. And coursework it's a little lighter, but it's more intensive.
Yeah.
I had some time, I worked a part-time job, 10, 15 hours a week,
Yeah.
Doing data science-y credit stuff.
Wow. That's crazy. So, I mean, really, really heavy into it. So while you were working there and you were getting what it sounds like was it 2 or 3 masters?
2 masters.
Two masters. So while getting 2 masters and then also doing this internship that's like heavy data, heavy information, you were also a aggressively competing athlete. So that kind of moves us into that next section here. So the cross country and track thing. So you were doing that year round. You were competing year round, correct?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about, but I'm a 3-sport athlete. Because I would run cross country in the fall. Mm-hmm. We had indoor track in the winter, January through February, and then outdoor track in the spring. And then during the summer, that's your training block for preparation for the fall. So I'd run all year round and 3-sport athlete. So it got to be interesting sometimes.
Very, very busy. So, and this was at SDSU?
That is correct. Oh, yeah, okay. Go Jacks all the way.
I always have to have a shout out for those. Absolutely. So you were very, very busy with school, a very high, intense expectation for the degree, also the internship, and on top of it, year round competing. So that is a lot to balance. And that is why we're having this podcast. That's one of the biggest things. So obviously it's very important to push yourself as hard as you possibly can. But the real question is how do you manage that? How do you push yourself the most that you can do in all areas, not just sports, not just academics, as a whole? How can you do that and manage that? So what were some of the things that you struggled with? What were some of the things that you learned? I mean, what was kind of that experience of managing all that?
Well, I would compare like going to college as like starting a new job, right? Early on, it's super stressful. You're just learning your way. And then after a while, you're busy and it's hard work, but you're comfortable with the hard work. Like you're kind of how things work, how things are coming down the pipeline. So then like early on in college, to be frankly honest, I didn't handle that well.
Okay.
My athletics suffered a lot. Okay. I was injured for like 2.5 years actually, and I didn't run my first much at all my first 2 years of college, freshman and sophomore year.
Oh wow, because of the injury and then
because of the injuries.
What was the injury? You never really clarified that.
Yeah, I had like 3 stress fractures throughout 2.5 years in my lower leg. So running doesn't really work very well when that happens.
Gotcha. Okay. So that was a challenging time. So then how did that eventually even out? Like, cause obviously you learned that skill and how to manage those high demand expectations on all fronts. What kind of came across as the years went on?
Well, I mean, I had support from my teammates, right? And coaches, I would have never survived if it wasn't for my coaches and teammates giving me opportunity after opportunity again. But also just keep grinding,
So just
day in and day
down.
out, keep focusing, keep focusing on trying to improve and managing stress as best as you can.
Yeah. So that kind of goes back to an older podcast that I did with a previous pair of teachers. We talked about discipline and how important that is. Mm-hmm. Was that one of the key proponents that kind of helped you continue to move forward? Was discipline kind of like the core bedrock of keeping things going? Or I mean, it sounds like it was important to you, but
yeah, I mean, if you're not disciplined and have self-control, it's very hard to manage a lot of things at one time. And like my coach in college, I have a lot of respect for him. He always talks about the BS factor. And that, he said when we, before practice every day, he'd be like, look at the screen time on your phone. Like you get weekly reports. And it's like you average like 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, 1 hour a day, whatever on your phone. And he's like, that right there, like if you just studied for 3 hours a day, like what's your BS factor? Like that needs to get down to as close to zero as possible.
Gotcha. Because like it's how you're using your time.
It's how you're using your time. You have a lot of time in your day.
Yeah.
And if you use it efficiently, you can get a lot of things done.
Absolutely. So having that motivating factor and knowing that like, okay, if I can manage that properly, and that self accountability, I can really achieve great things. It's that part of it. You have to harness that discipline part of it.
Yeah. And you have to surround yourself with self-disciplined people that are encouraging you along the way.
Let's dive into that, because for any students or even adults who are listening to this episode, that's a really, really important piece. Would you say is that? So let's say if those elements, that ecosystem that you were in, let's say if that was gone, how much harder would it be to be self-disciplined and to achieve that, like what you had to do?
Oh, it'd be almost impossible.
So ecosystems, very important.
Yeah. I mean, I have lifelong friendships and know a lot of very intelligent people through the, like you call them ecosystem, SDSU track and cross country team.
Yes.
Like if, for example, I was a freshman and there was a fifth year on the team, or I was very respected second team All-American or whatever in the 1500, like he went through basically the exact same thing I went through early on in his career, a lot of injuries, and he ended up running very well. And so he sacrificed time to, like, for me, like I sat down on his couch and just like, how do you do this? Like, what's going on? Like if it wouldn't have been people like him and like a lot of other teammates, people that have gone before me, helping me out, like it wouldn't be who I am today. Yeah.
So having that support system, like, having the drive to want to achieve great things, to want to build your discipline is half of the equation, would you say?
Yeah.
Like, and the other half is the ecosystems, the people who are supporting you and what you're surrounding yourself with.
Yeah.
Awesome. So then how did that translate, moving into your future years? How did that translate into your life now that you've experienced the ecosystem, you've learned that discipline and how to perform at a high level in all aspects of life? How did that translate after college? Because, you have that there, but then how do you carry that with you?
Well, it's all about habits. I mean, well, not all about habits, but basically what college athletics does or is supposed to do is teach you how to be a productive, I call it a productive member of society.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It teaches you self-discipline, doing things that you don't want to do to go where you want to go. Getting up every morning to go to practice. You have to get up every morning and go to work. And when you're at work, you're intentional about what you're doing. When you're at work, you're intentional about the relationships you're building with your coworkers. Just a lot of intentionality and being able to, just be productive.
Gotcha.
That makes sense.
No, that makes total sense, because that intentionality, I think that's a really good keyword to bring up there, is that you have clear intent, you have purpose-driven meaning, you have all of that pulling you forward through that. Would you say having that is a great way to start? And then after that, those habits are what can help carry you through and carry you forward as well?
Yeah. And I mean, you always have to work on it. Like if you're not going forward, you're going backward. And that was a big part. That's what kind of sets SDSU's cross country program. Like I'm a little biased.
No, go ahead.
Apart from other programs, like we're intentional on helping each other out.
Yeah.
Like, you have 15 guys from a lot of different backgrounds, right? Put together. Some are from the city, some are country boys, and you have to be intentional on bringing that group together and supporting each other to make everyone better. And I mean, that carries directly into real life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So then, moving on to kind of your career field, and we'll bring this back into your career field, but let's talk about what happened after college. Well, maybe we should finish kind of how your season ended, because you had a really interesting ending, if I'm correct, right? Because you kind of had to delay some things, right? COVID kind of affected some things.
Yeah. So early on, I said, 4 years and done. And then basically first 2 years I was injured and COVID hit. And next thing I know, it's like I'm a senior and I've only run for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that sucks. I want to continue. I want to continue doing this because this is what I love to do. So I continued doing that, and I was plagued with injuries throughout my whole career. But that's fine. Like you just have to manage that. Yep. But a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, let's move into that professional career. So you finish college. Then what happens?
So I actually finished college in May of this year.
Oh,
so
wow.
I haven't been very recently, even though it's kind of asterisks because I spread the master's degree was a 1-year program. I spread it over 2.
Oh.
So I basically was doing school, but focusing on trying to get as good as running as possible.
You were balancing it out.
Yeah, trying the professional like goal kind of situation.
Yep.
Just like kind of working. So I would say I was working like half time, like part time in work, and then part time running. Like if you put like 20 hours, that's that. And then
that's a lot of time.
Yeah. And then school, like my master's program, add a couple hours onto that for that. But school was, third on the list at that point. Cause I already graduated with my degree that I wanted.
Gotcha. This is just kind of icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So even though I graduated in May, I have a lot of work experience through jobs and internships.
Yep.
But at the end of my academic career in May, a professor at SDSU was starting a small AI company, startup company. He got a small business grant from NIH, actually, Massachusetts Institute of Health.
Okay.
And he's like, hey, I want you to join this company. It's just me and you and another gal. And let's see what we can do with this and see if we can make a company, get going. Okay. And so I quit my part-time job that I'd been working for with a finance company. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go full headlong into this and see what happens.
And that's also kind of where that data science came into play. Because what we'll see maybe in a few minutes, we'll kind of switch over and show your laptop so we can kind of show, what program this is and what it does and why. But that's where that kind of came in. So that extra data science that you were doing kind of aligns in with what you're doing now.
Yeah, my data science master's, it was like third on my list, like you said, but it actually is the thing that got me my job today. So it's kind of funny. Like you never know if you take advantage of opportunities, what will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're at this new company, and if I'm correct, is the company called RTutor, or is it the program that's called RTutor?
That's a question we get a lot, and that's a first time company mistake. So the company name is registered as RTutor LLC, but that's also our product. The problem is we have 4 products.
Gotcha. So branding can be a bit of a challenge.
So branding can be an issue. So we were doing business as, it's called Orditis.
Okay.
It's just a Latin word that we chose. It sounded cool, and website wasn't taken. And I don't think there's any copyrights.
That helps.
So I can't remember what Latin word it means. It means to begin or something like that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So long story short, yes, but no.
Okay. Gotcha. Yes, but no. So then the program that you showed the kids today, and this is kind of why this also rounds out why you're here. You showed them this program and what you guys are building and also working on providing to other businesses and companies and entities. And it had a lot to do with coding and obviously data science and I'm sure quite a bit of math as well. So why don't we quick dive in and show what this thing can do, if you don't mind?
Yeah. Live demos, they never go wrong, right?
Oh yeah, never go wrong. Yeah, never go wrong. All right. So show me what do we have on the screen here, especially for those who are, watching here on this episode.
Yeah, so this is RTutor. It's the name comes from R, which is the coding language actually that we're using.
Oh.
And tutor is like a tutor. So the goal of this is to tutor you in R.
Okay, so it's
Right?
literally a tutor that helps you code, correct?
Yeah. So if you're someone that may be familiar with coding,
Okay.
but not like confident, or even don't know coding at all, but you're like you're a small business owner, or you're a salesperson for that matter.
Yeah, that was some of the examples I saw you giving the
Yeah.
students in class.
And you have all this data and information that you want to know. For example, like what are my average sales year over year for my location in Jamestown, North Dakota? You just ask that, and if it's hooked up to your data set, it will give you the results.
Wow, so it's able to scan a whole large lump of data and give you actual realistic and reasonable answers that are correlated with the context of what you asked.
Yes and no. Since you're familiar with AI, I'll tweak that a little bit. It only generates the code. It doesn't. We don't give it the data.
Interesting. Okay.
So it runs the code on the data. So the data actually isn't sent to the website.
Interesting.
So, for example, what we see on the screen, this is heart attack data.
Okay.
Right? We send it 5 sample rows, and it's masked or whatever.
Yep.
To the LLM, language learning model, AI, so that it kind of knows the structure a little bit.
Okay.
But we don't send it the whole data set.
Gotcha.
We just send it questions and description about the data, like this.
Which is more like an intuitive experience too.
Yeah.
Usually when you're asking AI, it's not so data driven. It's very more conversational, right?
Yeah.
So this is more of a conversational usage.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Conversation. And then it will give you the code, and then our program runs that code on the data that you have. And so it's tweaking it a little bit.
A little bit of a tweak, but it gives you more control.
For the most part, yeah.
Okay.
It analyzes the data for you. So just a quick, I'll look at this. So you can ask it, like, what is the death rate by sex? And then make the chart pretty.
Which is very casual. That is a very casual
and if
request.
you hit submit or whatever, it sends that request to the model, and then it writes the code for you, and then returns the code.
Wow.
And then your computer or our website runs that code that the AI returns.
Mm-hmm.
The AI doesn't run the code. Okay.
Gotcha. So there's that security concern with the access to this, and the way you guys have built this creates a buffer between the data that it's accessing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is why you have it built this way, I'm assuming.
Exactly.
So it allows the users to feel safe that their information isn't just getting taken.
Yep.
Okay.
So then here it just makes your chart or death rate 15 out of 100 for females and 8 out of 100 for males. Now this is just a demo data set. Like you don't want to. I don't want to lead anybody astray, but this is just demoing how
it takes data.
You can ask the AI a question, and then it will give you a chart or a result.
Wow.
And so what we're doing is we're bridging the gap between people and their data. So now you don't have to be an expert at coding to be able to analyze your data, which is pretty cool.
Well, that's huge because it allows your average user to be powerful with what they have.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because I mean, it's one thing to collect data, which is now becoming easier and easier, but now being able to do something with it that has context correlated to whatever your industry is in, if you're a salesperson, like you said, or even if you're just trying to learn code, I mean, my goodness.
Yeah. And then that's the great thing about this is you can learn code here. This gives you the code. So if you're trying to learn R and you don't want to start from scratch, this will give you an example that actually runs, and then you can, well, not in this particular software, but you can modify it and see what changes.
Oh my gosh! So it really it's kind of a playground essentially for pulling data and then also learning.
So I can tell it, it chose a good color scheme, but change the color scheme, and then you can look and see.
And it's going to give you results based off of your request. And
so then it changed it to red and green instead.
Wonderful.
And then what changed is right there, right? That's the only code I think
it actually shows you so what you're seeing is the preview below, but what's on top is the code that's generating the preview.
Exactly.
That is cool.
Yep.
That is very, very cool. So then with that, now that we kind of like shown what this program is and kind of what it does. So you guys just started this summer, correct?
Yeah. June.
Wow. Yeah. Very recent. So
yes.
Are you guys in talks right now with certain companies, or what is the disbursement, if that's the correct word, of this program that you guys are working on?
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. We're talking about 5 different companies right now getting contracts on various different softwares. I mentioned that we had 4. So they're not all buying the same software, but I'll just lump it all into AI data analysis for ease.
Sure.
And they're from all over the world, United States, Japan, India, UK. It's kind of crazy.
And you guys are doing this here from, like, where are you guys located out of?
Brookings, South Dakota.
So very close.
Yes.
That's great.
Yep.
So you guys are making an impact on a global scale with a product that you've built and put together based off of not only the ecosystem that you were involved in college, that you are now continuing in a version of it with the degree that you've learned, so that all of those things are kind of culminating together into this really interesting moment in life.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. We'll see. There's a lot of competition out there, of course, with AI and everything.
Oh my goodness!
So
yes.
I might not have a job in 5 months, but we'll figure it out. I'm excited about everything and like trying to make our way. It's a fun adventure.
Well, I think you have a very impressive product here, and I think it's very, very interesting. I'm very curious to see how this is going to evolve over time and where that goes. That's very cool. So going back to a previous question I had, we talked about that ecosystem in college, and then how are you seeing that now in your job? How did that transfer over? Because obviously some of the people are there with you that you used to have. How are you still seeing that?
Well,
that supportive environment, I guess.
So that's a good question. And I would compare it to like my college experience. Whereas when you're younger, like as a freshman, you're mentored by upperclassmen.
Yeah.
Right. And then one day you wake up and you realize I'm an upperclassman.
Yeah. Okay.
You're like, oh shoot. I need to help out these younger people in navigating where they're going.
Yeah.
So that like in our work experience, for example, my boss is an upperclassman. He's a statistics professor at SDSU, right?
Okay.
He made this software. Of course, I'm helping him make it better and everything.
Yep.
But he made the core functionality, and he's helping me out. And then I have a coworker that like I help out a little bit too. She's very intelligent, by the way. And so it's like the team environment is 1-to-1. So every analogy you can draw on a team, like oh, you look like you're having a tough day. What's going on? Like, can I help? Like, do you need to leave or whatever?
So similar to your conversations with those experience when you were a freshman and they were that year 5.
Yeah.
Very similar situation.
Yeah. Like the team environment is directly correlated to the work environment.
Man.
If you want to build a good team, right? There's a reason why companies, it's called the team.
Yeah.
And if you want to build a good team, you have to have strong leaders. You have to, be humble. You have to make self-sacrifices, and you got to encourage people to be the best they can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a lot easier to run uphill when people are saying, "Hey, you can do it," in comparison to, the latter. So, but yeah. Okay. So those are all correlated. So, we got roughly about 10 more minutes till I have to leave, unfortunately, for class. So we'll try to round this out. So we've talked about your educational journey, your athletics and discipline. We've talked about the professional career and how all that is correlated together. We've even talked about the value of supportive environment and mentorship and the building of relationships and how that impacts not only your team, but also your career. And honestly, I'm sure even in education as well, while you're trying to, tackle your degrees and getting all that done. But, I kind of want to just recap some of the key points. What would be some of the things that you wish listeners, especially students, I feel like this is really would apply to your teenage to even college students who might be listening to this episode. What are the key takeaways you wish people would would pull from what we've all kind of talked about?
Well, I mean, number one, I just have fun and explore, right? I had no idea what I was doing when I graduated high school. Like I was told, go be a math major. I'm like, oh, okay. And then
Yeah.
but then what I did was I took advantage of the opportunities that arose, right? I got an opportunity to get an internship, and it was scary, but I took advantage of it. So if you're interested in, like in my case, doing math, like doing cool stuff with math, like take advantage of it, even if it's scary, you know?
Even if it's scary, don't be intimidated by
yeah.
that. Dive deep into that anyways.
Yeah, have fun. That's the main thing. I can't kind of blanking right now on other situations, but
no. So go explore. Don't be intimidated by the tasks because, like you said, you can shift on a dime. Things can change. Things can, and you can still go figure that out. And then also too, I'm guessing you'd love to mention the ecosystems and find a good group to work with, a good team to work with.
Yeah. The SDSU cross country team, for example, you don't realize it at the time, but they're super intelligent. Like the whole group, like I have friends or teammates, whatever you want to call them, that, support me along the way, that push me to be better. Like I look at them and like, oh man, you're working really hard. I need to work hard too.
Yeah.
But like they're engineers for like Raytheon. They do military contracts for the United States government, like 3M, for example, like, and then like doctors, they go on to medical school, PT school. Me, I'm doing AI, artificial intelligence. People that are trying to be like, whose goals are to be like, I think ambassadors and stuff. And like, I don't know, they have that goal. I don't know what they're doing exactly right now, but you realize a lot of intelligent, smart people that have driven and when you surround yourself with those people, they like, you're the average of the five people around you. I'll tell you that right now.
So finding a really good ecosystem that brings the best out of you is super important.
Oh,
obviously, we talked about not only being resilient, but also to building those good habits, and having that discipline. It helps to have the ecosystem too. It's the other half of that equation.
Yeah.
So, well, very, very wonderful. Before we take off, was there anything else that you'd like to quick throw in?
No, I had fun.
Good.
Showing off the software. I can talk all day about AI, statistics, math, running.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it was a blast.
Before we leave, actually, speaking of AI, let me ask you one final question. This might be more of an opinionated piece. But what are your thoughts on where AI might be heading moving into the future? Because obviously, people like you, people like me, obviously we're large advocates for AI.
Yeah.
But where do you feel like this is going possibly? And it's hard to predict that. But where do you see things happening?
I don't know. That's the main thing. It's crazy. Like if you look back 20 years, like I have my grandpa's 98 laptop that still runs, by the way. But it has like, its hard drive is like super small, 500 megabytes or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Now like there's pictures and file size is that big, like the size of your hard drive. So just like looking back 20 years, it's the technology that we have now, and then going forward 20 years is like, I don't know what's going on. But what I do know is that everything will be used for good and for bad. And yeah. So AI, I think if you use it right, is going to be very beneficial. It will help, especially in the medical field, and
I suppose with data.
Yep. And immunology, gene analysis, sequence and stuff. Like that's part of our software, but that will help a lot of people. But then you can also use it for bad stuff too. So it's hard to know. It really is.
So good actors, bad actors kind of situation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you feel like with AI, at least what it's been doing recently, do you feel like what it's doing is just taking away heavy lifting of tedious tasks, essentially?
Yeah. I mean, right now there's a lot of hype about it. And I don't know.
Thank you for saying that. Yes.
And I don't know what to think about it. Like I'm not an expert by any means. I started in June. I've been diving in a lot about all this stuff, but it's not perfect by any means. It makes a lot of mistakes. It makes stuff up because it's just a model. It's just a computer trying to predict stuff. And if it predicts wrong quite often.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, having right now, I would view it as a good tool to have in the toolbox.
Absolutely.
Like a wrench or whatever. I don't think we're quite to the point where it does a lot of automated stuff for you, even though apparently Tesla's coming out with like humanoid robots and stuff. I don't know if that, we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But for the average company, average person, that's still using Windows Vista.
Oh my gosh,
whatever.
yeah.
You know what I mean? No, it's the technology in industry is way behind like the cutting edge, like what you see on the news and everything.
I believe that.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens, and I'm excited for the journey.
Awesome. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for sharing all your information and your story and all of that. And thank you, listeners, for tuning into this episode. And remember that you can listen to Hawk Talk anywhere that you get your podcast, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or of course our YouTube channel. And have a great day.